everybody, this is Pooka, and today I have a pretty special match I have here. I was actually able to record the finals from my Battle Road recently in Madison, Wisconsin. And here we're going to have a pretty interesting matchup. My opponent Victor on the left, who was so gracious as to let me record this match and put it online. He is playing a Gothitelle Reuniclus deck, which also features Serperior to heal off damage as well. So he'll be playing that, and I'll be using a deck very similar to what Ross Cawthon used at Worlds, with Vileplume, Reuniclus, Zekrom, Donphan, and I also added a Steelix line in there. Just covers some more bases in terms of weaknesses and stuff like that. So, alright, we're going to get started, and Victor is going to go first. So, looks like we got a Gothitelle versus an Oddish and a Solosis. So, he's going to start off quickly with a Sage, but let's just kind of talk about this matchup really quickly. What exactly goes on in this matchup? You have two sides that are trying to trainer lock, but the interesting thing is the Gothitelle, it tries to get a trainer lock, but it plays trainers itself because its Magic Room ability allows it to shut off your opponent's trainers, but not your own. Also, both these decks rely on twins to set up most of the time because they're very slow. So something important that's going to come up is, who's going to get the trainer lock first? If the Gothitelle side gets it up first, then it'll be tough for me to get out of Vileplume. Thus, tough for me to shut off his trainers like Catcher. And if he has access to those, I'm probably going to lose. On the other hand, if I get Vileplume out first, it'll shut down his rare candies, his communications, all that stuff, and it'll make him pretty slow. It'll make it tough for him to set up. Also, we have Reuniclus for both sides, making it tough to actually knock anything out. So it's just going to be a long, drawn-out game. Very similar, I guess you can call it a chess match, because it's going to be tough. So we see my opponent use the Sage early on. Discarded two twins and a rare candy, so he realizes he's probably not going to fall behind this game. And then just benches Solosis, attaches to Gothitelle, and puts my Oddish to sleep. Now, putting that Oddish to sleep actually hurts me quite a bit, because I wanted to retreat and eek this turn, but I stayed asleep. So, looks like I won't be able to do that. And I'm just going to bench Cleffa in case he knocks out the Oddish, and have another Solosis. So, I'll be okay eventually. But look at that right away. Turn 2, Rare Candy, Gothitelle, and I'm in some trouble. I'm already trainer locked. It's going to be really tough for me to get those, the Vileplume and the Reuniclus into play because, I usually rely on rare candying the Vileplume to get that into play quickly. And I'll also have no access to communication, so until he takes a prize, I won't be able to really search my deck without twins. And even if I get twins, I'll have to evolve through Gloom into Vileplume, so he can just catch her out the Gloom and knock it out. So I'm going to be in a lot of trouble. Basically, I have to hope, his hand's not too strong past the Gothitelle. If I can get a Vileplume into play, I'll still be okay. But this is really scary. This is the last thing I wanted to be up against. And we see he played a Collector there. I think he grabbed Snivy, Zekrom, and maybe another Gothitelle. So, the unfortunate part for him is he cannot afford to retreat this Gothitelle because Magic Room only activates when Gothitelle is the active Pokemon, so he has to stay there forever. Otherwise, I'll get access to trainers, and it's just not going to be good. So, he cannot retreat and use Eek. Otherwise, the trainer lock's gone, I'll be able to rare candy, and his whole plan will be out the window. So, he's got to sit here with this Gothitelle, and if he doesn't have anything beyond that initial Gothitelle, he's just going to have to hope to draw into stuff. So, interesting spot. It looks terrible. He's got Gothitelle, Duosion already, and he doesn't have another energy though, so no pressure on me quite yet. And we'll see, I actually have a Duosion of my own. I'll play it on a Phanpy, and I'm going to want to Eek this turn, so I'll burn a double colorless in order to retreat, and then Eek right away. I'm going to try to evolve into Vileplume as quickly as possible, and if I can get it before he gets enough energy and a catcher, I'll be just fine. If I can get the trainer lock, we're going to go into a pretty evenly matched game. It's going to be really strange because both of us have Reuniclus. Both of us have a high number of hit points. Going to be tough for both sides to knock each other out. But it'll be a little easier for him because he can keep attaching Psychic Energy, and then eventually Mad Kinesis will build up to 130, even 150 damage if need be. And he'll eventually knock out my Pokemon in one hit. So these are all things I have to keep in mind. I have to figure out, well, how exactly am I going to get through this giant wall of Gothitelle? Especially because he has Reuniclus already. But fortunately for me, there's no pressure on me yet because, well, he didn't get any energy again. Still just one energy on the Gothitelle. He does have the Reuniclus though, so going to be in some trouble. So I'm fortunate enough to draw into Gloom. I evolve into that, and I play Cheren for 3 cards. Put a Fighting on Phanpy, and then evolve into Donphan. So my initial plan here is going to be, first of all, get Vileplume. If I don't get Vileplume, all my plans are going to be worthless. This deck is very fragile if your opponent can play Catcher and other trainers, so you need to cut those off as quickly as possible. So I got the Gloom into play, which was a huge step, and that Gloom is going to survive as long as he doesn't have a Catcher and a double colorless. Not too likely, so I'm feeling pretty safe about my spot right now. And, you know, eventually maybe I'll draw into Vileplume off of Eek. So, alright, he draws and he passes. So, still nothing on his front. And I'll take a look at my hand. I just Eeked for a new 6, and there's nothing I can play, so I Eek again. So, you know, Gothitelle really slows the game down. My deck's already very slow, so this is really going to be grinded out, slow matchup. Well, eventually it'll boil down to, you know, some huge knockouts back and forth once Gothitelle gets a bunch of energy on it. And, you know, we'll see where it goes from there. So, he plays a Catcher, which is kind of scary. You know, if he has a double colorless, knocks out my Gloom, I could pretty much just lose and not ever get a Vileplume into play, but he just decides to play the Catcher, realizing that Vileplume might come out. So, plays it, and then I'll retreat the Gloom for Cleffa, and it looks like, once again, I don't have anything, so I think this is like the 3rd or 4th time I've used Eek already, just trying to draw into Vileplume. If I do get Vileplume and Reuniclus, my plan is going to be, well, I wouldn't say it's simple, but kind of straightforward. I'm actually going to use Earthquake. My plan is not to knock him out or anything like that. My plan is to actually damage myself. I want to put damage on my own field. Now, why would I want to do that? Well, the only way I'll be able to knock out this Gothitelle in one hit, which is what I'm going to have to do because he plays Reuniclus and Serperior. So, if I don't knock it out in one hit, it's never going down. So what I'm going to have to do is Earthquake myself, putting damage on my field, and then move all the damage onto Zekrom so I can Outrage for 130 damage and knock out the Gothitelle. Pretty simple. That's going to be my plan. Now, it's kind of fragile. You know, if he gets another Gothitelle, Zekrom's obviously pretty fragile when it only has 20 hit points left. But, you know, there's no other way to go about it. So, that's going to be my plan. After that, not really sure what I'm going to do. I only play 2 Zekrom in the deck. You know, right now I'm wishing I would play more, but, you know, that's all I got to work with, so I have to figure out a plan. And we see my opponent collectors for 3 Pokemon. Looks like it was Cleffa, Jirachi, and gets the Zekrom back that he communicationed in earlier, just to thin out his deck, and then he's going to pass. So, still no energy on his front. I'm pretty safe. I play Cheren for 3. Cleffa did wake up, so that was fortunate. I'll be able to Eek again if I want to. And let's see what I got. Hoping for a Vileplume, or at least a Reuniclus, or at the very least another Duosion. Let's see, put a Rainbow on Zekrom, just anticipating the fact that I'll need to put damage on my own field. And then, you know, I'm just building up Outrage damage. Then it looks like I didn't really draw anything, so I'm going to have to Eek yet again. So, basically, this game has been nothing but pass, eek, pass, eek, pass, eek, over and over and over and over. But eventually this is going to build up into something big. Just wait for it. So, right now, my Cleffa woke up again. It's still on my opponent to top deck something. It's pretty ugly. You'll see most Gothitelle decks run Tropical Beach, just for this kind of stuff, because you can get an early Gothitelle and then you don't really have anything behind it. You run out of steam, so a lot of players run Tropical Beach in order to refill their hand. But I think this is my opponent's first Premier event, actually, so I don't think he had access to that card. If he did, he'd probably play it. But looks like we'll have a communication here. Shuffling in Cleffa, and let's see what he gets. He can get either a Gothitelle or a Servine, which would help him get Serperior. And it looks like he decides to get the Servine. Now, you know, against Reuniclus, you can kind of maybe keep hitting your opponent over and over for big amounts of damage, and then eventually he'll have nowhere to put the damage. But with Serperior, that's not an option. He can spread it. Say I do like 120 damage to a Gothitelle. Oh, let's get back to that later though, because I got the Vileplume and the Reuniclus off my Eek finally. And it looks like I'll be just fine. I fully set up. You know, he let me Eek over and over and over. And eventually I'm going to draw into what I need. So I did draw it. Now I'm fully set up. And now I'm going to have to spring into action pretty quickly. But what I was going to say is, when you have Serperior, you can just, if I took 120, or if I dealt 120 damage and he spread all the damage to 6 of his Pokemon, he can actually heal all 120 damage over the course of a full turn. And, you know, I would have done nothing. I get nowhere. So, Serperior really helps out with that, and really makes it so I have to knock him out in one hit. Now, you see I played a Collector. He actually had to read one of the cards. That's a Rotom. Prizes are a pretty big deal with this deck, so I tried putting in a Rotom to help out with that. He just had to read it because he's never seen it before. So I started off my plan. I used Earthquake, and it's going to be a very, very slow process. I'm going to have to Earthquake myself over and over and over. Pretty much until I can build up enough damage to knock out a Gothitelle with Outrage. Because that's going to be my plan. I don't really have any other way to go about this. So we'll see. My opponent's using Damage Swap, moving some damage around. He's spreading it out, so that way Serperior can heal it quicker. You know, if it was all on the Gothitelle, it would only heal 10 at a time. But now that it's spread out on his bench, it heals 10 from all of them, so effectively he'll be able to heal all the damage that was done. So we'll have Royal Heal from Serperior, and then he does get another energy finally, so he'll attach and finally threaten me with Mad Kinesis, and then he's going to end up passing. So from here, you know, I'm just going to keep Earthquaking. I think one of the things I could do is, well, what I'm doing right there, knock out one of my own Pokemon. Why would I do that? 1, to clear bench space. 2, so I can use Twins. I can actually knock out my own Pokemon with Damage Swap. And then I can play Twins, which will allow me to search for 2 cards. And that's really going to help me out. I'm going to have just search power at my fingertips at will. Search for any 2 cards. And I'll be able to get pretty much anything. Now, what am I actually going to want to get, though? Probably, first of all, another Zekrom. I think I'm going to need 2 Zekroms to Outrage back-to-back. Just, you know, to have the option to knock out 2 Gothitelles in a row. Otherwise, you know, I pretty much did it for nothing. I can knock out 1 Gothitelle, and then if I don't have enough damage in play to Outrage for another knockout, well, you know, I'm kind of back at square one. Not really getting anywhere. So, play the Twins. Don't really remember what I get. But, eventually I'm going to want to get another Zekrom into play. But for now, I'm just content using Earthquake, building up more damage on my field. I'm not really doing any damage to him. But you know, that's to be expected. He's got Reuniclus, Serperior, Gothitelle. He's got a big wall up front. Got the Serperior and the Reuniclus, where you can just spread all the damage out, and then it'll all heal off. And then, basically my Earthquake is doing 0 damage, eventually, so, we'll see if he got another Psychic Energy, and looks like he did. He drew into another one, so he'll be able to start putting pressure back on me, and start using Mad Kinesis. It'll only do 70 to Donphan, but that's fine, you know. In this position, I actually want him to use Mad Kinesis. Why would I want him to hurt me? Well, it's going to speed up the process of getting damage on my Zekroms, pretty much. That's the only thing. And, you know, I actually would prefer him to do this. It would scare me more if he just kept building up energy on a Gothitelle and then waited and then knocked me out in one hit. That would be really scary, because I wouldn't have any damage left on my field, besides my own Earthquake damage, to outrage him for a knockout. So I'm pretty happy, actually, that he decided to use Mad Kinesis, because my whole strategy is going to revolve around knocking him out in one hit with Outrage. And here I'll play another Twins. So, you know, knocking out my own Pokemon did me a big favor. You know, he could actually counteract this. He could knock out his own Solosis, maybe, to deny me the Twins again, and then I would have to knock out another one of my Pokemon just to use Twins. But it looks like he decided it's better not to give me prizes. You know, I can't argue with that. It's always scary to give your opponent a prize, but in this case, I needed to use Twins to search out some cards. So, looks like I do get another Zekrom now. It'll give me another thing to put Earthquake damage on, and also, it'll make sure I use, I'll have 2 Zekroms available for back-to-back Outrages, and then I'll just damage swap, move the damage onto my Zekroms, and I'll just Earthquake myself again, I guess. Because, you know, I want to hit him. It's weird. You kind of have to hit it timing. You know, you have to have enough damage to where you can knock out the Gothitelle, but then you also want enough damage on your field to be able to knock out a new Gothitelle. And you also want to hit before he has too many energy in play. So, I'm trying to find this perfect timing where I want to strike. But it's really hard to find. But he hasn't really had too many cards in his hand, so he's been in top deck mode for most of the time. But it looks like he top decked Professor Oak's New Theory. I know you can't really see it, his discard pile kind of got pushed off the screen. But yeah, the only draw supporters he plays, from what I saw, were, besides Twins, it was Professor Oak's New Theory and Sage's Training. So whenever he shuffles his hand into his deck, it's in Oak's New Theory, so we'll see him draw 6. And, you know, that kind of changes the game completely. He was just in top deck mode. He didn't really have anything for the longest time, and then he finally got a supporter. So, this will really change the flow of the game. Maybe he'll get more stuff out. He'll get more energy, maybe. And it's really going to be tough. So, it looks like he does get a Gothorita, which is really bad for me. You know, I don't want to see another Gothitelle, and I thought it would be tough for him to get another one into play, just because Rare Candy shut off, Communications shut off. You know, what can he really do? So, it looks like he's gonna spread damage out again, just so Royal Heal can heal it all off. And I think at this point I just tell him, okay, I know it's gonna get healed off, you don't need to put 1 on everything and then take it all off. We both understand it's going to be removed at the end of the turn. So, just save some time there. Don't make him spread the damage. And now, I wonder if he's caught on to my plan. You know, I'm going to Outrage for knockout, but does he realize what I'm doing? If he does, maybe he'll change his plans. If not, you know, he's just going to keep doing what he's doing. And at this point, I look at my board and I'm like, do I have enough damage to knock out my own Donphan? Because that's what I'm going to have to do. Knock out the Donphan. Because I can't retreat for 4 energy. It's easier to just knock myself out. Do I have enough to knock out the Donphan, Outrage for a knockout, and then follow up with another Outrage for a knockout in case he has a Gothitelle and a double colorless? And the answer is, I don't think so. I'm pretty sure I don't. So I'm going to have to spend another turn using Earthquake. You see I'm playing another Twins as well. So I'm going to have to wait one more turn. But, you know, this gives him another turn to put down an energy. It's really going to leave me in a bad spot, I would say. You know, I'm going to run out of Zekroms if I go with this plan, unfortunately. But we'll have to see how exactly it turns out. Because, you know, with the trainer lock on his side, he doesn't really have access to a whole lot. Even though his deck is designed to lock trainers from his opponent, you know, it doesn't matter. He still plays trainers because he can, so Vileplume still hurts him. Whereas in my case, I take into effect that Vileplume's allergy pollen shuts off all trainers for both players, so I don't play any trainers besides a few communications and rare candies. So, you know, the trainer lock, I'm playing with that in mind. My deck is built to play without trainers. So, once again, I'll just Earthquake, put damage on my field. Here we go. Now, next turn, I'll be able to easily have enough damage to knock out my own Donphan, and we'll go from there. So, we'll have to see what else he's got in his hand. He puts another energy on the Gothitelle. So if he got a second Gothitelle, it'd actually be tough. I don't know how I would deal with that right now. You know, there's also an option he could, you know, after I Outrage and knock out his Gothitelle, and it looks like he's playing an Oak's New Theory here, he could send up something dinky that does 20 damage. Maybe Zekrom with a double colorless that could Outrage and knock out my Zekrom, because I have to put 110 on it in order to Outrage for 130. That 50 damage you see on Gothitelle right now, that's going to get moved off from his Reuniclus' damage swap. So really, you kind of see how this can turn into a chess match. You know, it started off really slow, but it's about to explode. It's about to be a real slugfest back and forth. So, he played an Oak's New Theory. Looks like he didn't really have a whole lot. And now you see he's starting to realize, oh, I don't want to heal off all the damage off my field. So I'm just going to move the damage to one Pokemon. That way, Serperior only heals 10 at a time. Why wouldn't you want to heal the damage? Well, the same reason I want damage on my field, and that's for Outrage. He wants that attacking option. He needs to be able to do big damage, and if he can't, then he's going to be in some trouble. So he realizes this, realizes he's not, it wouldn't be too wise to spread all the damage amongst his Pokemon, allowing Royal Heal to heal it all off, and he just puts it all in Zekrom, leaving some there so he can Outrage later maybe. So the Serperior, while it prevents me from, you know, kind of attacking over and over and over, and then maybe building enough damage on his board to where he would maybe be overwhelmed, in this situation it actually comes back to bite him, because, you know, he can't really attack me for big damage with that Zekrom. So at this point I decided this is my time to strike. I moved 50 damage up to my Donphan to knock it out. So at this point I've knocked out two of my own Pokemon, and I push up Zekrom, and here you see I put down the Suicune Entei Legend. What I realized is this is going to be my only way to win the game, and my opponent has never seen this card before, so he takes a look at it. And why would this make any difference? Well, most people use Suicune Entei Legend for the second attack, Bursting Inferno, a fire, 2 colorless. It does 80 damage and burns your opponent. Mainly used against fire decks to knock things out in one hit, and it uses its high 160 hit points in order to not get knocked out. And then eventually you just overpower any fire deck like a Typhlosion Reshiram deck. But in this case, I'm going to have to put 2 rainbows onto the Suicune Entei Legend, and then use Torrent Fang, which returns 2 water energy back to your hand in order to do 100 damage to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So why would I be doing this? Well, I need to just... I can't knock out things in one hit anymore. I can't knock out a Gothitelle in one hit. But he can't knock me out in one hit. So what I'm going to do is just target benched Pokemon for free prizes. maybe I can go after Reuniclus, stop him from moving damage. If he doesn't evolve that Gothitelle, I can knock that out. And eventually, my plan is going to be knock out the Gothitelle. Hopefully he doesn't draw into a Gothitelle. And if I do that, I'll just be able to sit and wait until he evolves into the next Gothitelle, and then I'll be able to knock that out, and eventually he'll just run out of attackers. He can't keep up then. He can't play rare candies anymore, so he has to evolve slowly through the stage 1, and then I'll just be able to pick it off with Donphan before he can evolve to Gothitelle. So that's going to be my plan. I kind of have him in a lock with Donphan, but I have to buy some time first. Takes 3 energy to use, so I just push up Solosis, bench an Onyx just to soak up some damage. So I'm going to need to soak up damage here. So play a Collector just to thin out my deck. At this stage in the game, when you run out of twins, one of the disadvantages of Ross's deck is that you just kind of run out of ways to draw cards. Your hand gets really clumped up with all the extra Pokemon and the communications and the rare candies. So you get a giant hand with basically nothing. So what I did here was move damage off of Solosis, because I don't want it to die to an Outrage knockout. He's got no damage on his field, so he can't Outrage for 30 unless he had like a Rainbow Energy. So I either want to trick him into bringing out the Gothitelle and knocking it out, or maybe he'll just have to Outrage and let me attach again. So that's going to be my plan here. Seems pretty safe. I can afford to give up a prize. I am down in prizes right now, 5-3, but it's a whole different story in terms of board position. If I can knock out that Gothitelle with Suicune Legend, the whole game's going to just turn around in my favor. So it looks like he plays a Fisherman and gets back some Psychic Energy. So he's going to be fully stocked up on those. And he's just going to take a look and try to figure out, how am I going to close out this game? I'm down to 3 prizes. How can I knock out 3 more Pokemon? Is it going to be possible? If so, what's the best route of action? So here you can kind of see we're at a little bit of a stalemate. But he is actually on a clock. He has to make a move quickly, otherwise that Suicune Legend is just going to overwhelm him. And he realizes that Solosis is weak to Psychic, so he can push up a Gothitelle and then go for Double Slap, and if he gets 1 heads, it'll be a knockout. So he'll just go with that, and let's see what he gets. And it looks like he gets a heads. So 20 times 2, that'll knock out a Solosis, and he'll get down to 2 prizes. So now I take all the cards, the whole big Legend and the Rainbows. I push up the Suicune Legend, and at this point I kind of realize I probably won the game. I can knock out that Gothitelle, no problem. I'll just damage swap to move some damage off. And once I knock out the Gothitelle, it's pretty much over. I'll stop him from, getting another Gothitelle into play. I'll use Donphan here for 100, knock out the Gothitelle. And now I have him locked. Unless he can evolve into Gothitelle this turn, retreat, and then evolve into Gothitelle next turn, he has a 1-turn window to get another Gothitelle into play. If he doesn't, I'll just attach a Rainbow, and a Rainbow next turn, and then I'll always have the option to knock out that Gothitelle. So he is in a world of hurt right now. There's not a whole lot he can do. Another option he has is to maybe put me to sleep, and then catch me sleeping a turn, and then evolve into Gothitelle and Gothitelle. But I would say at this point the game is shifted largely into my favor. It's just something he can't deal with. The Serperior worked against him. If he still had that damage on his board, I couldn't do this. Zekrom would just come up, outrage me for 1,000,000 damage because I'm weak to lightning, and he'd knock me out. But the Serperior, it actually healed all the damage off, so he couldn't damage swap over to Zekrom and then use outrage. So, kind of a strange occurrence where, healing damage worked against him. So see another Oak's New Theory here. And he's going to try desperately to draw into another Gothitelle. And maybe get some evolutions going. Otherwise, he's going to be in a lot of trouble, I would say. This Sucevich Legend is just going to wreak havoc. It's not going to get knocked out by anything anytime soon. It's got 160 hit points. I can keep moving damage off. You know, I can always evolve into huge Pokemon like Steelix and Donphan that have just high hit points. And I'll have a lot of sponges, and I can always move damage and just knock one of them out. You know, a Steelix can actually take 140 damage and just remove it from play. I'll sacrifice a prize, but I'm perfectly willing to do that. And it looks like his response here is going to be to use Hypnotic Gaze and put the Sucevich Legend to sleep. So at this point he probably realizes, oh boy, I was doing pretty well, but now I don't know what to do. Obviously he had never seen the card before. He had to read it. I put a rainbow on the SEL there and then just swap the damage on Onix. Anyway, so he didn't see this coming at all. He had never seen the card. He asked me to read it first, and this just kind of came out of nowhere. He's probably seen Reuniclus and Vileplume before, and Zekrom and Donphan, blah blah blah. But this was a curveball, and I gotta say it's working out in my favor pretty well. I'm really kind of caught him with his pants down. So all I do here is I need to clear up a bench spot at this point. So I just move some excess damage onto Donphan and Zekrom up. I actually had my 4th rainbow prized. I had to use one on that Zekrom there. So what I'm going to do is Seeker up Donphan, just get some damage off my field. Then I'm actually going to put down Rotom and try to fish the rainbow out of my prizes. Because I could get into a spot where I just keep attaching rainbows, and then if I get 3 rainbows on it, and then I use Torrent Fang and return 2 to my hand, I can attach again the next turn and use Torrent Fang in back-to-back turns. So I want to have that option available. So I'll use Rotom's Mischievous Trick, which swaps the top card of your deck with one of your prize cards, and then I'll pass. So I'm just trying to get that rainbow out to keep my options open, and I remove some damage from my field. So if you look around, I got Zekrom 130 hit points, Vileplume 120, Reuniclus 90, Onix 90, who evolves into Steelix that has 140. The SEL has 160, so there's a lot of places to move damage. To the point where if he just had Zekrom outraging me for 40, it would get him nowhere. I would just keep attacking his bench. I would go around the Zekrom, and eventually I'm just going to win by picking stuff up on his bench. So here we see he plays another Sage. Looks like he discarded a rare candy. Didn't catch the middle card, but a Gothitelle as well. So I'm assuming there's some good stuff in there. Or he just has the Gothitelle in his hand. Either way, I'm not too concerned. You know, there's nothing he can really do this turn. If he evolved into Gothitelle and then maybe did the attack 20 and confuse, I would simply retreat to Zekrom and outrage it for a knockout, and he'd be pretty much done. There'd be nothing he could do about that, and I would just straight up win the game, pretty much. I assume he only runs 2 Gothitelles. Most decks don't run more than that, because you can just rare candy into Gothitelle. So that's kind of a limiting factor against Vileplume. So he couldn't really afford to evolve to Gothitelle here, so he might just have to try to put me to sleep again. And it looks like that's what he does. Hypnotic Gaze puts me to sleep, but I wake up. So it's going to happen here. I'll attach a rainbow. Probably swap the damage somewhere. Yep, I'll just put it on Onix. So now I'll have 3 energy. I'll Mischievous Trick, trying to get the rainbow again, because it doesn't look like I got it from the first time. I'll be able to Bursting Inferno for 80, knock out the Gothitelle, and then I'll still have those 2 rainbows left, the Torrent Fang next turn, in case he evolves into Gothitelle. So this is, pretty much a disaster for him. Even if he did maybe get a Gothitelle out, if I get that rainbow out, I can just attach a rainbow, knock out Reuniclus, attach the other rainbow, knock out Sucevich, and then boom, I can outrage for my last prize. So at this point, I don't see a real way out for him, unless there's something crazy like black belt. But even black belt, it doesn't do a whole lot. And it looks like he puts me to sleep again. It's tails, so I stay asleep. Not too worried about that. What I was going to say is, even if he has a black belt and uses it to outrage with Zekrom, that's still only 60 times 2. That's not even close to knocking me out, so I'll still be fine. So at this point, there's really no way I can lose, barring something I just haven't seen before. Maybe he like drops a, geez, I don't even know what would knock me out at this point. Like a Pikachu, and somehow I got 3 energy on it. That would get me. Otherwise, nope, not looking like it. I was scared at first that he might play a Rainbow Energy, and that would allow him to Bolt Strike with Zekrom, but it doesn't look like he plays any, so that's not a fear either. And at this point, my opponent's probably just trying to find a way out. It looked like it was going to go really well for him at the beginning. He had that Gothitelle turn 2. He had the prize advantage for pretty much the whole game. He still has the prize advantage, actually. But at this point, you can see my board is just overwhelming him. I have the Vileplume out. I have the Reuniclus out. I have the Suicune Legend ready to do 100 to any of his bench Pokemon. And let's see, still asleep here. So he's still alive. I guess one of the ways he could win is if I keep staying asleep and I deck out. But it seems pretty unlikely. So I do wake up this time. It's going to force him to use Hypnotic Gaze again. And I don't really see what else he can do. I think I've knocked out, I've knocked out 2 Gothitelles, a Gothorita, and a Gothita. So this will be the 4th Gothita. It's going to be out of those, unless he plays like a Flower Shop Lady. Most people don't play that. And so we'll go to sleep again, stay asleep again. So he's drawn this out as long as possible, but he's just kind of delaying the inevitable. There's no way to get around this, and probably realizes that. So it's probably in his best interest to actually concede the game pretty soon. That way he can have enough time to take 4 prizes in the next game. Because in the best 2 out of 3 situation, if time gets called in the second game, and at the end of the +3 turns, that player hasn't taken at least 4 prizes, the game doesn't count. It's incomplete. So he has to keep time in mind, but this is his first premier event, so maybe it's not running through his head. And it looks like I stay awake this time. I'll Bursting Inferno for a knockout. Down to 2 prizes here. He's going to send out Zekrom, but it really doesn't make a difference. I can just Torrent Fang the bench, and instead of wasting more time, he realizes that he concedes the first game. So we had a pretty long first game, really back and forth. I was fortunate enough to get that Vileplume out, even though he got that turn 2 Gothitelle. I was able to get enough damage on my field to outrage the Gothitelle for a knockout. So that was the first game. We'll move on to the second game, and bear with me. This is the first game. Just take a break until the second one, and we'll be right back.